Hello, BookTube. I have a book haul for you. I went to the Brattle bookshop in downtown Boston, even though I've already been there this week, for two main reasons. One is meteorological, which is that the Boston area might get as many as 4 days of rain coming up after today. And for some odd reason, I always, when I see weather like that in the forecast, I always think, well, I'd better go and stock up on books, even though I have thousands and thousands and thousands of books, and also a steady stream of books comes to me. I still feel that way, so I still go if I can before weather. And the other reason is young Denson at Robin Song Reads here on BookTube, who just recently created his own BookTube event, April Adventures. Adventures in April. Where you take the month of April to follow as many of his 3 prompts as you feel like. Read adventure books, have an adventure with reading, in other words, read something outside of your comfort zone, and go on an adventure. And presumably, if you're a booktuber, document it. Where you go someplace, some neighborhood, some park, somewhere that you haven't been, and experience that. Even if you're on the more sedentary end of things, even if you're a booktuber, film a video in a place where you live that isn't usually the place where you film. I was thinking about it's a great idea. I'll leave a link to his announcement video down below, and it's a great idea for an event, and it got me thinking. Of course, you don't go to the Brattle with a shopping list. Not the outside of the Brattle. The Brattle is a used bookstore. It is a normal used bookstore. It has a whiteboard and 3 stories of used books that are all priced and organized into sections and whatnot. But it also has a sale lot next door that's huge. It's thousands and thousands more books. It's the inventory of a used bookstore out there in the sale lot for $1, $3, and $5, arranged only by price, so no other groupings. And because that means that chance rules the sale lot, you cannot nudge it with demands, because chance doesn't like that. And if you nudge it with demands, you'll get nothing. So I wasn't making a plan of any kind. I wasn't setting an itinerary, but I was thinking, well, not asking for anything, but the next time you go to the sale lot, you should look for adventure-themed stuff and stock up on adventure-themed stuff for April Adventures. And I did that, and I found a lot. I got a pile of books, usually a pile of books, and they fulfill the first 2 prompts of this event. Not all of them. Like, for instance, this first one is Grey Seas Under by Farley Mowat, the author of Whale for the Killing and Never Cry Wolf and whatnot. And this is a nautical story about men who ply the cruel sea. Lovely cover design here. I had this once upon a time. This exact copy. I think I may even have hauled it on this channel, and one of you saw it, immediately put your hand up and wanted it, so I sent it away, knowing perfectly well, said to that person at the time, the reason I'm going to send this to you, even though I just found it, is because my bookstore will have another copy and yours won't. So it's only right that I do that. And the subtitle mentions the cruel sea, and of course the book has a blurb from Nicholas Montserrat, the author of the book, called The Cruel Sea. But this is about the captain and crew of a Newfoundland ship, a salvage tug called Foundation Franklin. Battered by towering waves, dwarfed by the ships she towed, blasted by gale force winds, and frozen by squalls of snow and rain, the stout ship and her brave crew saved hundreds of vessels and thousands of lives as they battled their ancient enemy, the North Atlantic. I read this when it first came out in this mass market paperback. I paid my what is it? $3.50 for this. Yeah, the book came out in 1958, and this thing came out, I think, in the 80s. I'm not actually seeing it, but I'm pretty sure this came out in the early 80s. That's when I got it and read it and loved it. So I found another copy. I also found a mass market copy of this little thing that I've had this in many different editions. This is appropriately warped and water damaged. This is C.S. Forster, the author of the Horatio Hornblower novels, and this is his little thing, Sink the Bismarck. That was, I believe, originally intended for a children's series, and I don't think Forster did much rewriting when he put it into a book that would go in the metal racks at train stations and bookstores and whatnot. And if I'm right about that, then it bears out a theory that I've always had, which is that really good writing can be read by anybody. But this is all about the hunt for the Nazi super ship, the Bismarck, which it's when you read the story from 30,000 feet, it's pretty anticlimactic. But Forster makes it such great reading. Sink the Bismarck, Once Upon a Time, was incredibly famous, so I've read this book a few times, but now I have this little mass market. I actually don't have any copy of it at all, so now I do. And then, so those two were Ships in the Sea, World War II, but then we can do a bunch of this Robin Song Reed adventure event. I found a bunch of adventure-y type stuff. Like, for instance, a mass market paperback of Paul Theroux's The Great Railway Bazaar. I read this. I have this as an ebook, and I think I may have it as a trade paperback, but I remember this mass market paperback very well. This is travel writing just par excellence. This is probably his most famous book, probably the biggest hit that he ever made. Sold like crazy when it first came out. When was that? 1975. Sold like crazy. And still sells, still in print. And just a series of epic train journeys. I've been on many, many trains. As long as they allowed me to bring my dogs or look the other way if I did, then I've been on many, many trains. And I traveled to a lot of the places that are mentioned in this book. So I just loved it. I mean, it doesn't need a vote of confidence from me. It's a standard of travel writing. Well, I found also a couple of other standards of travel writing that I have never seen in the Brattle. I've never seen them used in this country. The author is Dervla Murphy, who will be known to a lot of you in the UK. And I found two of her books. I found In Ethiopia with a Mule and Muddling Through Madagascar. Obviously the same thing. These are Arrow books. Yeah, Arrow books. These are Arrow trade paperbacks. You can see by the way they're slanted that they were loved. I'm sure that is true. This is a very beloved author. I looked, once I saw the two of these there at the Brattle, these are both, they're travel writing, but they're so well done. She's so good at it. And once I saw these two, I thought about others. I thought about like her breakthrough book, which was not there. I thought about her Northern Ireland book. Was it called A Land Apart? Do I have a list of her works? Well, yeah, I do. Full Tilt was her breakout book where she rides a bicycle around Ireland. But A Place Apart is her book on Northern Ireland. I would have loved to find both of those. These will do just fine, and they definitely count as reading adventure type stuff. Then this author I know well, but I've never got this book before. This is Danziger's Travels. This is Nick Danziger. This is a big book of his adventures from the Vintage Departures line that I've praised on this channel a number of times. For a while there, Vintage Departures, it had this logo here, was a separate print line from Vintage about travel writing. And whoever was in charge of that line really knew what they were doing, because there was not a dud in the bunch. When you see an old paperback with this livery, if you're interested in travel writing, you should get it, because it's going to be good. It's not going to be bad at all. And I will have read a lot of the pieces in here, but I'm happy to have the book. Then we can, let's see here, we can depart from young Denson, power hungry though he is. We can depart from him for a couple of other books, and then we'll move right back to April Adventures. Like, for instance, I found just a clean, like new copy in hardcover of The Firm by John Grisham. I recently, I think it was at the end of last year, for some reason or other, I'm not quite sure what the reason was now that I'm trying to remember it, but for some reason I watched the excellent movie that was made of this book, with Tom Cruise just exuding star power all through the movie, and yet he's the worst thing in it. Everything, it's so good that he's the worst thing in it. Especially, there are a couple of scenes, especially toward the end of the movie, where he's trying to act, where someone calls on him to act. The one thing that a movie star can't do is act. With only rare exceptions, they can't do it. And Tom Cruise can't do it at all. and when it comes time for him to try, that becomes really obvious. But he isn't asked to do that very often in the movie. The movie's excellent, just excellent. And I read this when it first came out. When was that? Right at the beginning of the 90s. Yes? 1991. Yeah. I read this when it was new. I borrowed it. I put the dust jacket in the office and borrowed this from my bookstore because it was already gaining steam. It already had a ton of word of mouth about it. Of course, it ended up being one of the most popular books of the 1990s. And I remember liking the story of Mitch McDeere. I remember liking this story. I didn't think that it was all that, but I thought it was well done. And a lot of water has passed under the bridge since then, so I am actually going to reread The Firm. How's that? And see what is in it, what I might like or not like about it. And then the next thing, the only other thing here from today that was not part of Robin Song Reads, was not part of him tyrannizing my reading. The only other thing was this thing, which is by Paul Fisher, House of Wits, a family portrait of the James family. A certain little magnolia blossom of my acquaintance wanted me to look for anything related to Alice James at the shop this morning, and there wasn't anything. There was a ton of Henry James, but there was no Alice James. There was no biography of her. There was not that Penguin volume of her. It wasn't anything like that. This was closest that I came, and I didn't think that it would really work to fill that bill. But then I realized I wanted a copy of my own because this thing came out 10 years ago. I think this came out 10 years ago. I read this when it first came out, and I really enjoyed it. 2008, so 20 years ago. This is a collective biography of the James family, and boy, oh boy, boy, oh boy, do you see how quickly the world forgets. Sic transit gloria mundi. You've got William James. You've got Alice. You've got a young Henry James. For some reason, the person who designed this cover decided to give us Henry James as a young hottie rather than the Henry James as an old leather-faced lizard. And you've got a chandelier. You've got a chandelier, for Pete's sake, instead of Henry James Sr. Henry James Sr., who all three of his famous children attributed all of their mental life to his upbringing. And he was a major figure in the literary and religious world of his day. Everybody knew him on sight. He had 24 books. That's not enough to get you on the cover here for a collective biography of the James family. The head of the James family is replaced by a chandelier. But I read this, and I remembered really liking it. I may have purged it from my collection during one of my periodic convulsions against Henry James, but I am not in one of those convulsions now. So I will happily reread this. Who knows what? I mean, good Lord, I've read so much about the James family since then. Although not a full-dress biography of Henry James Sr. I certainly haven't read that, because there hasn't been such a thing. So that was The Firm and House of Wits were the two non-Denson reading choices here, and then all the others are dominated by his event. Not that I mind. Like, for instance, we have this thing from Modern Library with the word adventures right in the title. This is The Adventures of Amir Hamza. A great Muslim epic, a great Persian adventure story. This is translated, unabridged, by Musharraf Ali Faruqi. And it is the story of Muhammad's uncle and all the adventures that he goes on with his flying beast. There's a flying beast that is very loyal to him, and he flies into battle. He flies to adventure. I remember when Modern Library brought this out, I did not borrow this from my bookstore. 2007. I did not borrow this from my bookstore, and I did not get it from Modern Library, even though I was back in the reviewing game by then. I took this out of a library and just lived with it for a weekend and really enjoyed it. So I never see this in a used bookstore. Absolutely never. So when I did, I grabbed it, especially since it fits the bill for reading about adventure. And so does this thing. I never see this author's work anywhere. This is Sven Hayden, and this is My Life as an Explorer. This is the English language translation of My Life as an Explorer. Here we have his own drawings, his own artwork throughout here. The Swedish original of this came out in the 1920s, I believe. I don't know when. This was translated by Alfhild Hubst. You're not. telling me anything, though. This is copyright 1925. It came out, I think, in 1926. But when did this translation come out? I doubt very much that this... Well, it could be. This doesn't have a dust jacket, but this guy was a legitimate explorer, one of the last great explorers in the world. In the 20th century, he lived to be talked up and decorated and have all of his works read by the worst people in the 20th century and the best people. Adolf Hitler was a big fan of his. And he was, to an extent that makes me a little uncomfortable, a big fan of Hitler as well. But he explored Central Asia in just indefatigable detail. He was just an amazing explorer. Like many amazing explorers, he was a raging a-hole. To his friends, to his colleagues, to his porters, to everybody. But as he grew older and was famous and financially secure, he took risks on behalf of other people, including against the Nazis. So, I mean, a big biography of him in English would be great. We're not going to get that ever, unfortunately. There's a lot that you could do. But this is adventure right there in the conception of the work. And this was, I believe, his first book, and I've never read it. So I will be exploring new ground while also reading about adventure. But when we get to the last book here, is the example from this Brattle haul of reading outside your comfort zone. When I did my signal boosting video about these April adventures, I talked about the prompt to read outside your comfort zone. And when I talked about that, I was a little dismissive of the idea. I said, well, I read a lot. I read pretty widely, and I'm wide open to being pleasantly surprised by things I don't ordinarily read. So my comfort zone is going to be a little hard to find. Of course, that was pompous and wrong. There are plenty of things I don't like, plenty of genres that I rail against. And probably the number one of those genres is philosophy. An entire genre built on nonsense, built on stupid, childish word games, and nothing else. Nothing. Philosophy is an entire mental exercise designed to ask a question that any 6-year-old could answer and then torturously act like it's the most complicated question in the world. When it's not. Are you alive? What does a 6th grader say? What does a 6-year-old say? Yeah, I am. But how do we know that? No, I just am. Do you need to ask a question? No. Do you need to torture the answer? No. Is it wrong to hurt somebody? What's a 6-year-old say? Yeah. But how do we know that? It's all just a complete waste of time. Talking about the thingness of things. And philosophy as a discipline, if you want to call it that, a writing discipline, a mental discipline, was born, continued, and still exists solely as a way for men to feel superior to other people, especially women. Solely that. If you meet a man between the ages of 18 and 60 who says that I dabble in philosophy, I love to read it, I can tell you what his attitude towards you is. So you would think that even prompted by April Adventures, I would not buy a book on philosophy, but I did to go outside my comfort zone. I admit, it looks really, really promising, so I may be fudging it just a bit. This is by Catherine Zuckert, and it's called Plato's Philosophers. And it is a big thing, and it's lavishly footnoted all throughout, which is a joy. And this is from what... Well, let's read the dust jacket and see. Faced with the difficult task of discerning Plato's true ideas from the contradictory voices he used to express them, no. No. Hey, 6-year-old, what does Plato say? Oh, he says what he says. Ah, okay. But what do you mean? But anyway, scholars have never fully made sense of the many incompatibilities within and between the dialogues. In this magisterial book, the author explains for the first time how these prose dramas cohere to reveal a comprehensive Platonic understanding of philosophy. And it's also a misunderstanding of philosophy. It's also a Platonic understanding of philosophy and the philosophiness of philosophy. To expose this coherence, the author examines the dialogues not in their supposed order of composition, but according to the dramatic order in which Plato indicates they took place. This unconventional arrangement lays bare a narrative on the rise, development, and limitations of Socratic philosophy. In the drama's earliest dialogues, the two non-Socratic philosophers introduce the political and philosophical problems to which Socrates tries to respond. A second dramatic group shows how Socrates develops his distinctive philosophical style. And finally, in the later dialogues, two other non-Socratic philosophers reveal the limitations of Socratic philosophy. Despite these limitations, the author concludes Plato made Socrates the dialogue's central figure because Socrates raises the fundamental human question: what is the best way to live? Dude bro nonsense, in other words. But this is exhaustively annotated and seems classically literate. So, on behalf of Denson's event, I am going to read this. I must have missed it. It came out from the University of Chicago Press. Did it come out before I was reviewing books? I would think that I would notice this if it didn't. 2009. No, I just missed this. I was reviewing books in 2009. So, but I have it now. So I'll be reading outside of my comfort zone with Plato's philosophers. And then a whole bunch of, well, no, we'll start with Plato's philosophers. Then we'll go outside of April Adventures for The Firm and House of Wits, about the James children and their missing father. Then we've got a ton of adventure stuff. We've got My Life as an Explorer by a man who actually did open up new territories and explore places that no other white person had ever gone before. The Adventures of Amir Hamza, kind of 1001 Nights adventures. And then a whole bunch of travel writing. We've got Danziger's Travels and Dervla Murphy. We've got Muddling Through Madagascar and In Ethiopia with a Mule. Not the two books by her that I really wanted, but I'll take them because I don't have any. And The Great Railway Bazaar by Paul Theroux, a very famous modern travel writing book. Plus Ships in the Sea. We've got Sink the Bismarck and Gray Seas Under by Farley Moet, about a Newfoundland salvage tug. So there you go. That is a Brattle haul that had a BookTube event in mind. I'll leave a link to Denson's video announcing his event in case you want to do some adventuring of your own in April. But I'll wrap this up. Now I'm stocked up for the rain, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.